Airports are important hubs for the worldwide transport of people and goods. Countless employees ensure smooth handling of these services, day and night, summer and winter, under almost any weather conditions. What is taken for granted by millions of customers requires a perfectly orchestrated organization behind the scenes. Working in the aviation industry requires a high degree of training, reliability, and discipline. Even the most minor incident, a slight inattentiveness, can generate unpleasant consequences, or, far worse, can cause an accident. With this film, we want to promote safety around our aircraft by showing you the correct behavior when encountering dangers and risks. It is essential that ramp workers realize how complex and challenging their working environment is, so they can perform their duties safely and without accidents at all times. For a clear focus on your work, you must begin your shift appropriately rested. You should be in good shape. Before and during working hours, the consumption of alcohol or drugs is strictly prohibited. Likewise, medication can affect your awareness and may compromise your ability to drive a vehicle or operate a machine. At the airport, aircraft are refueled and hazardous goods are handled. For these reasons, smoking is strictly forbidden on the entire ramp. The private use of mobile phones on the ramp is not allowed, as your work demands your full attention. Don't take any risks. For radio communication, leave the danger zone and stop your vehicle in a safe place to make the call. Do not be distracted. Working on the ramp requires equipment that complies with current safety regulations. You are often exposed to adverse weather conditions, noise, or darkness. For your optimum protection against accidents, it is mandatory to wear protective and reflecting clothing at all times. Safety clothing does not only protect your health, it also reflects on the image of your company. Lifting heavy objects can compromise your health. Please be careful and observe the recommendations of accident prevention and health organizations. Maintain a correct posture when loading and offloading luggage. Avoid yanking movements and take care of your joints and back. As a ramp worker, your main tasks are handling cargo, post, and luggage, as well as operating a variety of aircraft servicing devices. In performing your duties, your personal positive attitude towards your work is essential. You should always care. If you notice any damage or malfunction when accepting or taking over equipment, report this immediately to your superior. The device in question must not be used until the damage has been repaired. Work only with correctly functioning equipment. It is the only way to guarantee safety. When driving on the ramp, always switch your lights on and observe the prevailing driving regulations at all times. Respect your local speed limits. In the vicinity of an aircraft, driving is only permitted at a walking pace. On the ramp, aircraft always have right-of-way. Therefore, observe the red flashing lights on the aircraft. They indicate that the airplane will start to move shortly or is already in motion. Before the aircraft taxis to its stand, conduct an FOD check and remove any objects from the stand that may be lying around. FOD stands for Foreign Object Debris. That includes, for example, metal fragments, luggage straps, wood splinters, and so on that you find on the stand area. Should such debris parts be caught in the undercarriage or be sucked in by a jet engine, they can cause substantial damage, with correspondingly high repair cost. FOD must be disposed of in the dedicated containers. Then the wheel chocks, safety cones, and the required equipment and vehicles are prepared so that the aircraft can be secured, supplied with electricity, and immediately unloaded. Ensure that the taxi zone remains absolutely free, so the airplane can enter the parking stand without hindrance. Bear in mind that from the cockpit, the pilots only have a restricted view of the taxi zone. Therefore, it is difficult for them to precisely judge the lateral clearance to any obstacle. Wait for the aircraft at a sufficient distance from the stand centerline guidance markings. In front of the engine, there is the intake zone. In this area, the air is sucked in by the running engine. If you get too near to a running jet engine, it can have fatal consequences. The blast zone is situated behind the engine. Here, hot air is expelled from the engine at high speed. The jet of air can be strong enough to capsize vehicles or injure people. Never underestimate this danger. How far back this zone extends depends on the aircraft type. As an example, this picture shows the danger zones of a medium-range aircraft and a long-range aircraft. Wait at the nose of the aircraft until the engines have been switched off. Do not enter the danger zones under any circumstances. When the aircraft has come to a complete standstill, secure the nose landing gear with the wheel chocks. Then set up the electricity supply. Only after the red rotating beacons have been extinguished are you allowed to continue servicing the aircraft. Now you may proceed to the back in order to position the chocks for the main landing gear. The number and position of chocks will depend on the type of aircraft. The supervisor will inform you accordingly. To prevent collisions between aircraft and maneuvering vehicles, cones are positioned as a safety measure. Utility vehicle drivers rely on these indicators as they often cannot see the wings and engines from their cabins. Attention! Only correctly placed cones can help to prevent collisions. Do not ever displace the positioned cones. Only now may the jetways, the various catering and service vehicles, lifting platforms and conveyor belts dock at the aircraft. If you are compelled to park your vehicle directly beside the aircraft, bear in mind that in an emergency, the refueling vehicles must be able to leave the area immediately. Never block the escape route with equipment or vehicles. For most Swiss aircraft, fuel trucks can park either to the right or left of the aircraft. Never park under the tank vent panels at the wingtips. In that position, there is great danger of an explosion. Before approaching an aircraft with your vehicle, always first perform a careful braking test. When doing so, ensure that you are not endangering people or equipment. Prior to docking, carefully observe if there is any visible damage to the fuselage. If you notice any such damage, call your supervisor over immediately and report your observations. The docking of jetways, service vehicles and loading vehicles at the aircraft demands the utmost attention. These devices must be operated with competence and caution at all times. When positioning jetways, always ensure that you consider the necessary clearance under the door, as during subsequent loading, the aircraft will be forced down by the increasing weight. Galley and passenger doors open differently according to aircraft type. Only open a door when you have the corresponding training. Without fail, observe the pressure warning on Airbus aircraft. Upon opening, make sure that the door locks in place and the latch is in its recess. As an example, here is the correct opening of a catering door from the outside on an Airbus A320. It is imperative to observe the pressure warning through the window and to place the door latch in its recess. And here is how to correctly open the same door from the inside. Make sure that the escape slide is not armed and the pressure warning light does not come on. Another example. Opening a service door from the outside on an Avro. Make sure the safety hook catches properly. When opening from the inside, waste bins, containers and storage cabinets must all be closed and fully pushed in prior to door operation. Ensure the emergency escape slide is not armed and look outside to check the situation before opening the door. Do not cause any damage. Service and passenger doors are equipped with escape slides. In the event of incorrect door operation, these can inflate explosively, leading to potentially severe accidents. Remember, inadvertent release of an escape slide always causes considerable inconvenience to passengers and may even necessitate the cancellation of the flight. Should the escape slides be needed for an evacuation, they require a large open space of 5 by 10 meters. Therefore, never place equipment or vehicles which are not in operation directly in front of a closed door. In the event of an emergency, it is imperative to leave the aircraft quickly. The specific order can be issued by the crew or any other staff on board. If you yourself observe smoke, fire or other safety-related incidents, raise the alarm and leave the aircraft as quickly as possible in an orderly manner through the main exit. Driving through the loading zone demands utmost caution. Here, only a walking pace is permitted. Loading vehicles have priority. Don't forget to conduct a careful braking test when approaching the aircraft with your vehicle. Always remain alert in the loading zone of the aircraft. When maneuvering utility equipment or vehicles with partially restricted fields of vision, your full attention is required. If you cannot see enough as a driver, it is essential to obtain assistance, thus ensuring your precise movements. Docking at the aircraft demands concentration. Operate the relevant equipment with the necessary caution. Here too, inspect the aircraft for any apparent damage. When loading and unloading the aircraft, always be observant and act responsibly. Particular attention is required for the blowout panels in the cargo holds, as these can fall out of their mountings relatively easily. Should you notice an open panel or should a panel come loose in the course of cargo handling, inform the pilot or an aircraft mechanic immediately. After unloading, ensure that there are no objects left in the cargo hold and that no damage has occurred or become visible within the cargo compartment. If you notice any damage, report it to your superior without delay. Prior to loading, ensure that the cargo hold is completely empty or that only the declared transit cargo is in the compartment. The supervisor must confirm this with his signature on the load distribution document. The supervisor is also responsible for the correct loading of the aircraft. He has all the necessary details regarding the allocation of the cargo and how special goods are to be loaded and secured. When loading, make sure that all containers and pallets are secured according to regulations. All nets must be hooked up and tightened. Under no circumstances must the load shift in flight. The aircraft could become imbalanced, and as a possible consequence, might even crash. Therefore, remain careful and alert when loading. Even when you are under time pressure, safety comes first. Never load a damaged container or an incorrectly loaded pallet. A damaged container, for example, could break apart, or the incorrectly loaded pallet could shift in flight and become a major hazard. Barrels and drums must always be loaded upright and must be secured against toppling over. Dangerous goods may also be transported on passenger flights. There are many relevant regulations. It is important that you know the various kinds of hazardous cargo and how to react in the event of an emergency. If the cargo hold is full to over 3/4 of capacity, dangerous goods need not be tied down. In this case, however, they have to be well secured by other pieces of cargo. Always load dangerous goods so that the hazard labels are facing towards the cargo hold door. Dangerous goods demand careful handling in compliance with the regulations. Negligence can have disastrous consequences. Never touch damaged, dangerous goods. Alert your supervisor and secure the area. For cargo holds to be opened and closed without problems, you have to ensure sufficient clearance around the doors. Safety nets must be securely fastened, even when there is no load on board. On the Avro, whenever the animal bay is in use, not only does the protective cover have to be closed, but the net must also be fastened. When loading is complete, examine the loading zone for possible FOD, as damage can also occur when the aircraft leaves the stand. Whenever shutting a hatch, verify that it is properly closed. This also applies to cargo holds and all panel covers. The power supply may only be disconnected upon instruction by the cockpit crew. Here too, ensure that the panel cover is correctly closed. The cones may only be retrieved after the last vehicle has departed. Each co-worker is personally responsible to correctly close his assigned doors and hatches. As an additional safety measure, before the aircraft taxis away, the person communicating with the pilots via headset also verifies that all doors, hatches and panel covers are correctly closed and examines the aircraft for any damage. Should you yourself detect any irregularity, you are obliged to report it immediately to your supervisor. Upon the supervisor's instruction, the chocks are removed. The aircraft is then ready to leave the parking stand. Always adjust your speed to the prevailing weather conditions. Strong rain, fog and snow impair visibility. Water, ice and de-icing fluids increase your braking distance substantially. In the event of a gale warning or a thunderstorm, certain handling activities are restricted or must even be discontinued. In the case of strong winds, a chock is required at the front and back of every wheel. In gale winds, the cargo holds and passenger doors must be closed. Under certain circumstances, utility vehicles, stairways and jetways must be removed from the aircraft. If there is a danger of lightning during a thunderstorm, under no circumstances should you be connected to the aircraft via a headset. Remember, as a co-worker in ground handling, you must always work responsibly and with caution. Always ensure that safety comes first. In this way, you will make an important contribution to accident-free handling activities on the ramp. We wish you pleasure and satisfaction in your diverse and challenging work.